Welcome back. My name is Lexi and this is Lexi Rose Reads. Today I have my winter TBR video. So I do my TBRs a little bit differently. I don't like to do monthly ones. I feel like I always fail with monthly ones, so I do more of a seasonal one. So my TBRs run over the course of the season. So this started on December 21st and will run through March 19th because the first day of spring is March 20th for 2025. And it just helps me a little bit more. I say that like it's gonna help me read my books more in a reasonable time frame. I did not do well on my autumn TBR. Like I will post what ones I read. I have 20 books on it. I'm gonna put 20 on this one. I read 6, which honestly is better than I was expecting. My absolute goal was to actually get to 50%, but the fact that I even read 6 is pretty good timing. Hello, Shelby. I knew Shelby was gonna join us at some point. So the fact that I even read 6 off the list is pretty good for me, all things considered. But nevertheless, I am going to put 20 more books on my TBR here for the winter. So the first book on my winter TBR is Onyx Storm. I have pre-ordered this one because it comes out on January 21st. I still have yet to read Iron Flame. That was on my autumn TBR and I never got around to it. So between then and there, I do need to read Iron Flame, and then I am planning on reading Onyx Storm pretty shortly after its release date because I did love Fourth Wing. I've heard not so great things about Iron Flame, like it's not as good, but nevertheless, I'm still gonna read it, and I feel like I'm gonna dive into Onyx Storm pretty quickly. I'm not gonna go into the summary for it. I think we all know where it is, and I also don't really want to read the synopsis in case I spoil myself for anything that happens in Iron Flame because I have avoided all spoilers because I'm really good at avoiding spoilers and I don't want to spoil myself now. So the next books I have on this list are a series, and it is a highly loved series. I will say that I've had the books since at least the first 2 I've had since 2017, I want to say, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. I've been told I need to read the series, and I'm finally just like, hey, I'm gonna put it on my TBR and make myself read it. So we have the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. So I do have all of the books here, all of them. So my goal is to read all of 5 of these. I mean, obviously we're gonna start with book 1 here. I've heard a lot of good things. I've heard this is one of the series I should read first from Sarah J. Maas. The only other Sarah J. Maas book I've read is the first Crescent City, which I've been told to maybe read them, this one and Throne of Glass first before I read Crescent City. So I haven't gone on beyond Crescent City 1. I do own all of them so far, so we're on a track for buying, but this one, I need to read this one, guys. I've had this forever, like I've said. Let's get into a synopsis in case anyone doesn't know. She's still alive, now she must pay with her heart. When 19-year-old huntress Fair kills a wolf in the woods, a beast-like creature arrives to demand retribution. Dragged to a treacherous magical land she knows only from legends, Fair discovers her captor is not an animal, but Talman, one of the lethal immortal fairies who once ruled their world. As Fair dwells on his estate, her feelings for Talman transform from icy hostility into a fiery passion that burns through every lie and warning she's been told about the beautiful, dangerous world of the Fae. But an ancient wicked shadow over the fairy lands is growing, and Fair must find a way to stop it, or doom Talman and his world forever. This is fantasy romance. I'm a big fantasy romance fan. Honestly, I used to just say a fantasy fan, but I've like really grown into being more of a fantasy romance fan at this point. So I think this will be right up my alley, and I'm hoping to get through all the books. I've heard this is a very bingeable series, which is kind of why I'm lumping all of them together, you know? So I have all of them. The goal is to binge them, guys, okay? Next on it, while we're just talking about fantasy, might as well just get these books out of the way. I know these are a blood book, which I hated author. I need to finish my reread of Harry Potter. I'm not going to go too much into the Harry Potter ones. At this point, if you don't know what Harry Potter's about, you live under a rock. I don't know. I need to finish the last 2 in my reread. I started it this year in 2024, and I just procrastinated Order of the Phoenix because I didn't want to read what happens at the end of Order of the Phoenix. But I have a feeling now that I've gotten past my I don't want to read this point, I think these last 2 will go pretty quickly, and I kind of just want to get through my reread so that it's not just sitting in the middle of my, hey, I need to finish doing that reread that I wanted to do. And then we have our next fantasy book on here. If you guys know, I've been rereading The Mortal Instruments. I'm doing a Shadowhunters reread with some people, and one of our books that we were supposed to read in November, was the Bandit Chronicles. I never got around to it, so I'm gonna go ahead and read that. It is a collection of short stories. I'm not the biggest fan of short stories, but I do think I'll be able to get through this one fairly quickly after I read City of Heavenly Fire, because I never got around to that one. So that's gonna be on the goal before I read this one. So look, my TBR was building off of my TBR and I'm failing at that. But I'll get into this one. This one is about Magnus Bane, which is one of my favorite characters from the Shadowhunter universe. But in Mortal Warlock, Magnus Bane's life has been long, adventure-filled, and never dull. Through snippets of his past have been hinted at in the Mortal Instruments and the Infernal Devices, here his deepest secrets are revealed. His involvement in the French Revolution, his witness to the speakeasies and sleaze of Prohibition, and his place in the battle between Valentine and the New York Institute the first time around. But smuggling Marie Antoinette out of France is nothing compared to his befriending vampires like Camille Bellicourt and his first date with Alec Lightwood. So I'm kind of interested because I do like little snippets, of fantasy books. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of short stories, but I feel like because this is snippets of a larger story as a whole, I'll be into this one. And then we're gonna play the game of watch me pull up some books that I was supposed to read last month that we're gonna put it back on my TBR because I really want to get around to them. The Haunting Danielle series, books 1 through 4. These will be quick reads once I get around to them. I just know I will. And I talked about these a little bit in the last one I read, the synopsis for the first one, but I'll just do my synopsis real quick. Basically, our friend Danielle is a medium, and what does that mean? She sees ghosts. She speaks to ghosts. She inherits the house of Marlowe House in Oregon. Guess what happens? There's a ghost in the house, and she needs to solve his murder. And then it expands because all the ghosts are gonna find Danielle. Let me tell you, I don't know how the FBI doesn't show up more often in this town. There's a lot of murders. There's a lot of ghosts happening. How all the ghosts find Danielle, I don't know. But they be doing that. So I really want to get around to my reread because I think book 38 or something just got released. And I kind of need to catch up because I've read up through like book 32, I think. The next one on this list, I've had on my list for a while, and I was like, I should read that. And I wanted to read historical fiction, and this kind of fit the bill. And so I got this at a used book sale like 2 years ago. It's A Dangerous Inheritance by Alison Weir. It's a novel of Tudor rivals in The Secret of the Tower. I like history. Historical fiction is kind of my jam. It's kind of why I picked up this book entirely to begin with. But it also, the synopsis seems kind of intriguing. Dramatic, entwined stories of two women, Catherine Gray and Kate Planet, separated by time but linked by twin destinies, involving the mysterious tragic fate of the young princess in the tower. When her older sister, Lady Jane Grey, the 9 Days Queen, is executed in 1554 for unlawfully accepting the English crown, Lady Catherine Grey's world falls apart. Barely recovered from this tragic loss, she risks all for love, only to incur the wrath of her formidable cousin, Queen Elizabeth I, who sees Catherine as a rival for her insecure throne. Interlaced with Catherine's story is that of her distant kinswoman, Kate Plagnant, the bastard daughter of Richard III, the last Plagnant king. In 1483, Kate travels to London for Richard's coronation, and her world changes forever. Kate loves her father, but before long she hears terrible rumors about him that threaten all she holds dear. Like Catherine Gray, she falls in love with a man who's forbidden to her. Then Kate embarks on what will become a perilous quest, covertly seeking the truth about what befell her cousin and the princes in the tower, who may have been victims of Richard III's lust for power. But time is not on Kate's side, or on Catherine's. Catherine finds herself a prisoner in the Tower of London, the sinister fortress that overshadowed the lives of so many royal figures, including the boy princes. Will Elizabeth demand the full penalty for treason, and what secrets will Catherine find hidden within the tower walls? I am actually a huge fan of researching the Tudor dynasty in England. I don't know why, okay? I like to research King Henry VIII. I don't know why. It's one of the things I was like, I can like fall down a rabbit trap and fall into, which is kind of what caught my attention because it said Tudor on the front. And I was like, yo, I could get into that probably. And now we're gonna delve into my book of the months, okay? I am determined to get some book of the months read, okay? Honestly, only one of these is like super old on my list, which maybe we'll do that one first because it's the one that's been on it the longest, you know? So I have 56 Days by Catherine Ryan Howard. I got this one in July of 21. And this one is a COVID one. I do know that, which it was I mean, it was one of the very first, like, what intrigued me was it was a COVID one, and at the time I hadn't read any COVID books. But did I pick it up right away? No, it's still sitting on my shelf, clearly. 56 days ago, Sierra and Oliver meet in a supermarket queue in Dublin and start dating the same week COVID-19 reaches Irish shores. 35 days ago, when lockdown threatens to keep them apart, Oliver suggests they move in together. Bad idea, girl. You don't know each other that long. Sierra sees a unique opportunity for a relationship to flourish without the scrutiny of family and friends. Oliver sees a chance to hide who and what he really is. Like I said, girl, not a good idea. Today, detectives arrive at Oliver's apartment to discover a decomposing body inside. Can they determine what really happened, or has lockdown created an opportunity for someone to commit the perfect crime? That's what caught my attention. I really want to get around to this. And I think as I go through these Book of the Months, you're going to see that there's a theme that's coming up, and that's a hint for a Book of the Month vlog that's coming out here when I get all the books read, you know, casual. Next, we have The Family Game by Catherine Steadman. I picked this one up because I like the cover. That was it. It was October of 22's pick. I liked the cover, guys. That was the whole reason I got this one. Pretty shallow for a reason, but I was like, yo, I like those colors. A rich eccentric family, a time-honored tradition, a lethal game of survival. One woman is about to find out she has what it takes to join her husband's family in the riveting must-read thriller from author of Something in the Water, Mr. Nobody, and the Disappearing Act. The rules. 1. Listen carefully. 2. Do your research. 3. Trust no one. 4. Run for your life. Harriet Reid, a novelist on the brink of literary stardom, is newly engaged to Edward Holbeck, the heir of a powerful family. And though Edward has long tried to sever ties with them, news of the couple's intimate marital bliss has the Holbecks inching back into their lives. As Harriet is drawn into their lavish world, the family seems perfectly welcoming, so when Edward's father, Robert, hands Harriet a tape of a book he's been working on, she's eager to listen. But as she presses play, it's clear that it isn't just a novel. It's a confession. A confession to a grisly crime, a murder, and suddenly the game is in motion. Feeling isolated and confused, Harriet must work out if this part of the plan is to test her loyalty or something far darker. What is it that Robert sees in her? Why give her the power to destroy everything? This might be a game to the Holbeck family, but for Harriet, losing might prove deadly. I'm kind of into this. Like, it's a game, it's a murder mystery, it sounds like, and I like murder mysteries. Next, I have The Only Survivors by Megan Miranda. I have not read anything by Megan Miranda, but again, I kind of picked it because I like the color scheme on the book. I just like the orange, pink, purpley ombre, and that's why I picked it. But this was April 23's pick, so we're not that far behind, guys. It's only April of 23's pick. Honestly, considering that the first one I showed for Book of the Month here was from 2021, we're not doing that bad with this, okay? 7 hours in the past, 7 days in the present, 7 survivors remaining. Who would you save? A decade ago, 2 vans filled with high school seniors on a school service trip crashed into a Tennessee ravine, a tragedy that claimed the lives of multiple classmates and teachers. The 9 students who managed to escape the river that night were irrevocably changed. A year later, after one survivor dies by suicide on the anniversary of the crash, the rest of them make a pact to come together each year to commemorate that terrible night, to keep one another safe, to hold one another accountable, or both. Their annual meeting place, a house on the Outer Banks, has been a refuge, but by the 10th anniversary, Cassidy Bent has worked to distance herself from the tragedy and from the other survivors. She's changed her mobile number, she has blocked the others' email addresses. This year, she is determined to finally break ties once and for all. But on the day of the reunion, she receives a text with an obituary attached. Another survivor is gone. Now they are 7, and Cassidy finds herself hurtling back towards the group, wild with grief and suspicion. Almost immediately, something feels off this year. Cassidy is the first to notice when Omnia, the annual organizer, slips away, overwhelmed. This won't raise alarm except for the impending storm. Suddenly, they're facing the threat of closed roads and surging waters again. When Omnia stops responding to her phone, after all they've been through, she wouldn't willfully make them worry, would she? And as they promised long ago, each survivor will do whatever he or she can to save one another, won't they? So this is also kind of almost like it kind of gives me vibes of an isolated one because of the flooding waters. So it's kind of intriguing. I do like isolated, like thrillery books. So I'm intrigued to see where this one goes. Next, I have a Riley Sager. Riley Sager is an all-white author for me, even though I've only read like 3 of his books. I will always forever buy Riley Sager's books. I don't know why. I just kind of like 3 I've read. So I picked up House Across the Lake. I've heard a lot of bad things about this one, But like I said, Riley Sager, I've loved the 3 I read from him, so I keep buying them, and I'm honestly just intrigued. I got this one, I think, as a substitute 1 month because I didn't want any of the picks, but I couldn't tell you what month because it doesn't say it on the back of the book. But here we go. Be careful what you watch for. Cassie Fletcher, a recently widowed actress trying to escape a streak of bad press, has retreated to the peace and quiet of her family's lake house in Vermont. Armed with a pair of binoculars and several bottles of bourbon, she passes the time watching Tom and Catherine Royce, the glamorous couple living in the house across the lake. They make for good viewing. A tech innovator, Tom is powerful, and a former model, Catherine is gorgeous. One day on the lake, Kathy saves Catherine from drowning, and the two strike up a budding friendship. But the more they get to know each other, the longer Cassie watches, the more it becomes clear that Catherine and Tom's marriage isn't as perfect as it appears. When Catherine suddenly vanishes, Cassie immediately suspects Tom of foul play. What she doesn't realize is there is more to the story than meets the eye, and the shocking secrets can lurk beneath the most placid of surfaces. So this is kind of intriguing to me. I will say, just reading the synopsis, I think Catherine and Cassie are two similar names that I'm not so sure I vibe with, because I feel like my brain is going to get semi-confused, but we will see how this goes. The next one I have is from Book of the Month in January 2024, and it was on the Goodreads. I don't know if it made it to the like winning one, but it was for sure like on their Goodreads Choice Awards. Okay, guys, I don't pay that much attention after that, I'm not gonna lie. But it's First Light Wins by Ashley Elton. I've heard a lot of good things about this one, which is kind of why I picked it. The cover kind of intrigued me. This like neonish green caught my attention on the app, not even gonna lie. Evie Porter has everything a nice Southern girl could want. A doting boyfriend, a house with a white picket fence, a tight group of friends. The only catch? Evie Porter doesn't exist. The identity comes first. Evie Porter. Once she's given a name and a location by her mysterious boss, Mr. Smith, she learns everything there is to know about the town and the people in it. Then the mark. Ryan Summer. The last piece of the puzzle is the job. Evie isn't privy to Mr. Smith's real identity, but she knows this job isn't like others. Ryan has gotten under her skin, and she's starting to envision a different sort of life for herself. But Evie can't make any mistakes, especially after what happened last time. Evie Porter must stay one step ahead of her past while making sure there's still a future in front of her. The stakes couldn't be high, but Evie has always liked a challenge. I'm very intrigued. I've never actually read the synopsis for that one. Like I said, the green caught my attention, which is why I got it. But this kind of almost sounds like a witness protection-y thing, and I've read another book like that probably a decade ago, and I remember liking it. So I'm kind of curious where this one's gonna go. Last book on the list, guys. Okay, book number 20 here, which is Sleep Tight by J.H. Market. I got this one in September of 2024, so not that far ago. It was a horror book, and I don't pick too many horror books off of Book of the Month, so I thought I would give this one a try. Honestly, it kind of just caught my attention with the whole sleep tight thing, and I saw a bunch of people reading it this spooky season. The sole survivor of a serial killer might hold the key to stopping a new spree of murders in this propulsive horror thriller in the vein of The Black Phone and The Whisper Man. Beware the one who got away. Father Silence once terrorized the rural town of Twisted Tree, disguising himself as a priest to prey on the most vulnerable members of society. When the police finally found his house of horrors, they uncovered 19 bodies and one survivor, a boy now locked away in the hospital for the criminally insane. Nearly 2 decades later, Father Silence is finally put to death, but the next morning, the detective who made the original arrest is found dead. A new serial killer is taking credit for the murder and calling himself the Outcast. The detective's daughter, Tess Claiborne, is a detective herself, haunted by a childhood trauma and horrified by the death of her father and the resurgence of Father Silence's legacy. When Tess's daughter is kidnapped by the Outcast, Tess is forced to face her worst fears and long-buried memories. With no leads to follow, she travels back to Twisted Tree to visit the boy who survived and see what secrets might be buried in the tangled web of his broken mind. Intriguing. Like I said, I've seen a lot of people reading this past spooky season, so I'm kind of intrigued to get into this one. I don't know, this red really popped out to me, and I just feel like I gotta read it. But that is the 20 books I'm hoping to read for this winter. I'm gonna make my goal the same as I did last time. I don't think I publicly said my goal last time, but my goal is to get through at least 10 of these books. If I get through at least 10, I'm gonna consider that a win for my TBR. And let me know if any of these books are on your TBR, or if you've read any and really recommend them, or just let me know what's on your winter TBR. Bye.